Huddle Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Boys, we are about 48 hours away as we put this episode out on Saturday. 48 hours away from NFL chaos and Vikings chaos, because at 11 a.m. Central Time on Monday is when NFL free agents can agree to terms on contracts with teams. You can't sign anything until the league year on Wednesday, but you're going to hear like player A agrees to terms with team B. Kirk Cousins agrees to terms.
By Wednesday,
maybe.
all formalities. Monday and Tuesday are going to be hopping.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the press release for free agency frenzy on NFL Network starting at 10 a.m. on Monday. Free agency frenzy.
I feel like we used to call it free agency frenzy bonanza so that we wouldn't, be completely copying
be careful.
NFL Network. But
Football gone wild.
So we thought it'd be fun to come to you with a list of 10 free agent targets that we are interested in the Vikings putting in a phone call to when they're allowed to on Monday. And I should note that we are recording this before, like, there's some Garrett Bradbury steam out there on Twitter and social media that maybe the Vikings are considering a surprise cut of a Garrett Bradbury. So if something like that happens, we can make note in the description. But like, because if Garrett Bradbury gets cut, then I would say like, well, Lloyd Cushenberry, there's a couple center options out there in free agency. That's right. Lloyd Cushenberry.
Meat and potatoes,
go,
interior
dude.
line.
Let's go. But as of right now, Garrett Bradbury is their starting center. And I don't know, maybe there's another surprise cut there somewhere. But we've put our heads together and we have 10 free agent targets. Not really in order, but I think we'll start with the one that we all consensus agree, number one, that they should call on Monday with a gigantic offer to. And then we'll go through these. And if there's some honorable mention guys that we should kick around, we can throw some other names out before the episode's over. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah. So the Vikings, 11 a.m. for the first time, will be making contact. Clearly, there's been no tampering.
No contact at
There's
all
been
yet.
no contact.
None.
They're cold calling.
Yep.
Hello,
Hey,
sir.
it's Kwesi. Yep, it's
You up?
Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Yeah, I'm the general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. Nice to meet you, sir.
Great to meet you. Let's zoom.
And by the way, a name off the board that I've been stumping for we've done 4 different offseason blueprint episodes. My guy, Kevin Dotson, the Rams starting right guard, came off the board last night for less money than was projected. 3 years, $48 million with, I think it's $32.5 million guaranteed. So, Kevin Dotson.
Do you think that's because it's a good fit for him? Like, would he have been, do you think, willing to take less from the Rams because he sees an opportunity to win there?
You're saying he could have maybe gotten a few $1 million more to explore free agency, but
Yeah,
chose to
I'm
stay
saying
with
you said it's a bargain, and I'm just
best
thinking,
fit?
I wonder what's
I don't
going
know.
through Dotson's mind.
Oh, boy.
It's very possible. I don't know. Let's start with number 1 on our list here. Defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, 28-year-old free agent from the Miami Dolphins. So the PFF projection is 4 years, $25 million a year. So 4 years, $100 million with $67.5 million guaranteed. It's a big, big contract for one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL. Generally a top 10 pass rushing defensive tackle last year, depending on which market or metric you look at. And also very good against the run the last 3 years. 100 stop tackles over the past 2 years with Miami. Began his career under Brian Flores when Flores was still with the Dolphins.
Yep, drafted by Flores. Yeah, I love this one. I have shifted my thinking from keep Daniil, who I still like a lot, but I'm thinking, how do you build a defense? Like, what are the cornerstones?
Football.
Like, what are the when you're starting the house, what do you make sure, you know what, this foundation, hurricane, earthquake, tornado, it ain't going anywhere.
Pillars.
Christian Wilkins is it. I'm willing to pay this.
Me too. 100%.
I'm going to be, I think this is my number 1 priority guy now.
It just feels like a natural fit for the Vikings and someone that they are looking at, right? I mean, especially if they're going to lose Daniel Hunter, they need to fill a big void at pass rusher. They can still get that in the draft for sure, and a cheaper option would be to go through the draft, but you can't just roll with rookies and inexperienced dudes at one of the most important positions in football. So it does feel like Wilkins, if they have I would love to see like their evidence board or their big board right now at TCO, but I feel like the circled one in the center on the top of that bulletin board is Christian Wilkins.
And I did see a note, I think from Alec Lewis at The Athletic, that Brian Flores is spearheading a lot of their defensive player research for the draft, and I would presume also for the offseason.
Yes.
That they're giving Brian Flores a major voice in the room for how to build his defense.
Yes.
And don't you think that Christian Wilkins would be, of all, like Deck said, if here's all the names of free agents and all the names in the draft, defensive players, who are your top 2 or 3 names that you're interested in? I'm sure there's like an edge rusher in the draft that he really likes. Wouldn't Christian Wilkins be number 1 or number 2 on that list?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's his guy. And also, I think if the Vikings were to be truthful about this, no surprise, if they are successful in the first round, it's probably a quarterback. So you're not going to address the edge there. So, but I mean, Brian Flores deserves this. Like, he took a defense that was horse bleep, and he basically took a lot of the same players and turned it into until the end of the season when guys were hurt and worn down a little bit more, turned it into a pretty damn good group. So imagine now if you had Christian Wilkins in the middle, and Harrison Phillips can move outside of him, because Harrison Phillips, in his defense, no pun intended, was miscast. Like,
but Harrison Phillips is still a really good player. It'd be nice
in
to
the
have
right
a partner
role,
in crime in those trenches, right?
And in the right role, he becomes a more effective player. I'm just saying, I think Kevin O'Connell, I think what he's probably learned, and I think a lot of coaches have to learn this, is yes, it's really important to be good on your side of the football. But as we learned with Zimmer and offense, you also have to prioritize, because you're the head coach of the team responsible for the entire thing. And speaking of partner in crime, Brian Flores is a great partner in crime, because he's basically a head coach defense. And as long as O'Connell's not threatened, I mean, it could be perfect.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, just one last thing here on Christian Wilkins. 2 years ago with Miami, he's an every snap guy. He played 1,000 snaps 2 years ago, and he played. He's an every snap guy. He's not a guy that you have to pull off the field. He can get after in third down, but he led all interior defensive linemen in stop tackles. A stop tackle is defined as you stop the opposing team from a successful run or play. Successful being 50% of the yards on first down. I believe it's 60% of the yards on second down, and then third down would be a conversion. If you stopped them from getting to those markers, it's a stop tackle. So he had 58 stop tackles 2 years ago. He had like 40 last year. The next closest guy was 10 stop tackles away. So he's everything in the middle. But then this last year, he made a huge step forward as a pass rusher. His previous career high in pressures was like 33. He doubled it to like 60 pressures in 2024.
Yep.
So he has become the complete package.
9
Okay.
sacks.
9 sacks. He's had
count me in here.
Huge job.
Okay,
I'm going to give you the next 4 names are from the edge rusher bin at different levels here. I'm just going to speed through these 4 names, and that'll get us halfway through our list of 10 here, and you guys tell me what you think. So edge rusher Bryce Huff, 26 years old, from the Jets. PFF projects $17 million a year on his contract. He is a pass rush specialist. 60 pressures, 8 sacks, but a limited role. Not a guy that's going to be great against the run. He's pretty much, hey, get out there and get after the quarterback. And don't worry. Like Unique Ngakoue kind of was for the 5 weeks he was a Viking.
Don't remind me of that.
Daniil Hunter is a complete edge rusher. Bryce Huff is not. But Bryce Huff still gets a lot of pressures.
Situational.
Jonathan Greenard, 27 years old, from the Texans. PFF projects 4 years, $19 million a year for his services. 14 sacks last season and the 8th best run-stopping rate among edge rushers. Mm-hmm. Dorrance Armstrong, 27 years old, from the Dallas Cowboys. PFF projects only $9 million a year on a 3-year contract for him. He's had, depending on the website you look at, 16 or 17 sacks combined over the past 2 seasons. Good pass rusher, not great against the run. My concern here would be that he cleans up opposite Micah Parsons, kind of how we talk about DJ Wanham cleaning up opposite of Danielle Hunter. Are you just kind of, if you don't have the Micah Parsons or the Danielle Hunter, can a Dorrance Armstrong or a DJ Wanham hold up on their own? And then the fourth one from the edge bin that we have on this list is Andrew Van Ginkel, 28 years old, from the Miami Dolphins. PFF projects 2 years, $6.5 million per year. He had 53 pressures and 8 sacks last year, mostly a limited. He's not like an every snap guy, but he was asked to do that second half of the season because of injuries.
Right.
But like more of a good rotational edge rusher that you'd mix in for maybe 60 to 70% of snaps.
Right. What if I was to tell you that Christian Wilkins is going to influence this line and have an impact so much that I've become less concerned in 2024 about my edge? Because it's not realistic that I'm going to fix everything at once. Like, I'm not going to. What I'm trying to do, again, is set the very foundation for a team that I think in 2025 can take off, okay? So what if I was to tell you that I would pursue a cheaper, older player? I've got a guy written down here, 11 and a half sacks in 17 games for the Titans last year, but he's 33, Danico Autry.
Okay.
So so for 2024, I still want to have a guy that can rush, but I'm not going to replace Hunter immediately. And again, our thought process is you're probably going to draft a quarterback in the first round. So you're not going to get a top edge guy in the first round, which would be ideal if you were set a quarterback and you liked your QB and had that guy, which you don't have necessarily now. So I've sort of come around to thinking Christian Wilkins is going to provide you, hopefully, at this price, and now with ability to rush, he's going to provide you immediate interior pressure that you have sorely lacked. You've seen it, but the Vikings haven't had it. That's going to make life easier on the edges. So I'm going to probably go skew shorter term contract, older edge for now, as a placeholder until I can really turn over the roster a bit more. So I'm not big game hunting here next week.
And Autry, I don't know if you said this, if I might have missed it, but it's projected that he's going to do like a 1 year, $7 million contract.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're already spending $25 million on Christian Wilkins, you probably can't afford the $17 to $19 million Bryce Huffs and Jonathan Greenards. So that can make some sense. Autry last season in his 9th season in the NFL, 10th season, 3rd with the Titans, had 53 pressures, 54 the year before, 64 the year before that. Just a good, consistent, non-elite, like a B plus edge rusher. So I'm not wild about the 33-year-old free agents, but if you're building other young pillars and Christian Wilkins is 28 and it's like a 1 year thing, as you go and maybe draft somebody in the second round, then I can get with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you just don't want to sign like just the random Andrew Van Ginkels as your 1A, right? Like that would be a mistake unless they really are going in the draft heavy to solidify their defensive line. And that would mostly be like trading back, accumulating more picks, getting more darts to throw at that position. So they definitely have to have a top A plan, which I'm guessing is Wilkins. But if Wilkins comes off the board, I am curious what the secondary plan. What's plan B if you do miss out on Christian Wilkins?
Well, what sucks about that for the Vikings is there's not a lot of guys of that caliber at that position that even hit the market as we're seeing. Well, Chris Jones is the top dog at that position, but I got to think he's going back to Kansas City, right?
Agreed.
He's the number 1 free agent on the board, and he is such a game changer. Madubuike is in that mix, but he was just franchised by the Ravens, so he's one way or the other, unless you want to give up a couple first-round picks or something.
That ain't happening.
And then it's Wilkins. I mean, Leonard Williams Reader, with the Giants is 30. Right. DJ Reader.
That's the next tier.
But I think Wilkins is a tier above those guys.
Oh, yeah. I am big game hunting here, gentlemen. Like, I am big game hunting. What I'm saying is I would rather do that than try and, pay a bunch for an edge, because I think that Wilkins makes your front more effective immediately, and I want interior pressure.
Yeah, and what happens too with some of these guys, like Aaron Donald is one of these. He's a different species than even Christian Wilkins, but
Yes.
These interior, every snap guys that can stop the run and they can get push in the passing game.
Yep.
And we haven't even mentioned this. It's like the biggest reason why we're talking about Christian Wilkins. The Vikings by a mile were dead last in the NFL in interior pass rush win rate.
Football.
You can fix this problem. But what happens with these guys is they get such a great push. And these teams, the Vikings are one of them, are running all sorts of stunts and twists, right? Where, okay, Chris Jones or Christian Wilkins, your job is to basically set a pick in the trenches so that edge rusher can come around on a twist. He picks up the sack.
Football.
Just overpower.
He gets the credit for your play, right?
Yep, and and the center and guard are doubling you because they know that the center can't take you, and so now you're taking two guys out. That's what I'm saying is I think your edges become more effective through that.
You can get more productivity out of your edges being just sort of random guys if you have a Christian Wilkins, and that's like to Declan's Andrew Van Ginkel point. All due respect to the Van Ginkel family and lineage.
Good old Van Ginkel.
It might be that he picked up a couple sacks because of Christian Wilkins, right? So, okay. Linebackers. As of now, it's basically Ivan Pace Jr. and nobody else trustworthy to play linebacker.
Let's do it.
Because Jordan Hicks is a free agent. And your guy, Brian Asamoah, has played like 3 snaps in his NFL career.
Might not work for him.
So 2 linebacker options here. And again, we're generally looking at, to start with, guys that are maybe like 26 to 27-ish, 28 years old on multi-year deals.
Yep.
Jordan Brooks from the Seattle Seahawks. PFF projects 3 years, $12 million a year, so a little bit steep for that position. They were paying like Jordan Hicks was making like $6 million.
Yeah.
So $20 million guaranteed, but he'd be a tag team partner for Ivan Pace Jr. He's only 26 years old, like I said. He's already played 3,300 career NFL snaps. So he's got a ton of experience, and he's shown some growth. PFF has sort of dinged him in the grades, but the explanation on their website is he's being asked to match up. He's getting like really tough matchups in pass coverage against tight ends and whatnot. But Jordan Brooks, and then former Golden Gopher Blake Cashman makes our list of linebackers of interest. 28 years old. Had a breakout season with the Texans last year. Projected 2 years, $4.2 million per year, so very economically friendly. He was the 8th highest graded linebacker in the NFL last year, breaking out in his 5th season. Can you trust it?
Right.
Can you trust one
And
year
what are you
of
paying
sample
for
in
it?
5 years?
And what
Yeah.
are you paying for it? How long?
So a couple linebackers on this list. That's somewhere either in the draft or free agency. They will need another reliable linebacker or two.
And I think that they're definitely going to get one. Now, Doogie did say that there have been some talks, it sounds like, with Jordan Hicks's camp to come back. And Jordan Hicks was good. The problem is he going to go off the cliff? Because at some point in time, because of his age, he's going to. I think Flores would really like to solidify this spot. And yeah, Pace was great. But I mean, it's not like, well, he's just going to do everything. He's undersized to start with. And my guess is that they might like to spot him in more occasionally. I think they were forced to use him probably a little bit more than they wanted because they were so thin there. Because essentially the linebackers behind Hicks and Pace were a lot of special teams guys. So I think this is going to be a sneaky one where they definitely invest. And I'm not saying it's going to be enormous, but I think this is one we don't talk enough about that Brian Flores has probably targeted.
Yeah, I agree. Just in depth and everything. Like you need reliability there.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jordan Brooks was I think he was a first round pick as well. I think part of the problem there was when he was drafted, the Seahawks had, the all world Bobby Wagner's.
Yeah.
And I think the expectation was, well, he's going to fit right in with these Pro Bowl players. And he didn't. I wonder if a change of scenery at a relatively young age, that there's still more there. And he would come here with expectations, but he wouldn't come here with probably the expectations that he started with being a first round pick in Seattle.
Yeah.
And those are the type of guys Kwesi likes to get, right? Guys coming off the rookie contract the first few years and figuring out if there's still more upside there than it is just like signing the slappy veterans that are available too. So I think that would make a lot of sense from what Kwesi likes to do.
Yeah, is there like a Pro Bowler in there that needs to be unlocked and Brian Flores could help unlock it? I think with Blake Cashman, you would just be, okay, he was good in his 5th year, getting his first real crack at playing every down snaps. You bring him in for a couple years at a much lower price, but the ceiling is gonna be a lot lower on him. Okay, cornerback. So we're getting to our last 3 on this list, and I only have one cornerback name. I know Judd's out on this idea, so feel free to replace it with another name if you want. But Xavier Howard, another Miami connection, he was released by the Dolphins. He'll be 31 years old this summer. He was once, as of even like 2 or 3 years ago, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He thrived under Brian Flores in Miami. So you could pretty easily bring him in on like a 1 or a 2 year contract as your veteran, understands the system, cornerback presence. And considering we just signed Christian Wilkins for like $25 million a year, you probably can't afford a whole lot more than like a Xavier Howard for $7 or $8 million. So
yep,
Xavier Howard.
I've thought about this. You know what? I'm more in than I was in our previous discussion. Because you definitely need help here. Like, there's no question you need help here. And I don't know that you're going to, it's not that you're not going to use a draft pick again on corner, but I also don't think that you can use a draft pick. It's probably going to be fourth round, second round. As of today, the Vikings do not have a 3rd round pick. I don't know that you're going to then ask that player to immediately plug and play. So I could see this. And it makes sense that you would bring in a guy that knows Flores' system, and he might not be great now, but he is steady, brings a calming presence, which I think that the back end at corner could definitely use. So I'm more on board with this than last time, because like anyone worth his or her salt, I am willing to change. We can all change.
Look at you. Wow,
I'm
the sports
changing.
dad. Evolving in front of our eyes here.
We can all
It's
change.
Crazy.
You can change.
I can change. Everybody can change.
So yes, I am more on board. I don't love it, but I also think, I guess when you look at this, the reality is if you get Christian Wilkins, that is you've gone into the deep end of a pool.
Yeah,
so
you're
it's
not
not realistic to be like, well, just keep going in. You know, it's a ton of cap space. That's great. But ideally, what you're doing is you're trying to also set yourself up for a year from now when you're going to have a ton of cap space. And that's when I think that you're really going to be or have a window to be uber competitive. So this, to me, what you're suggesting, Phil, is sort of like my suggestion now at rush end, which is get a big fish, possibly 2. But the reality is then fill in with guys that can be productive, but potentially one and done.
It feels like they'd have to go after the Byron Murphys of the group, to be honest. I think they'd pass on the Xavier Howards and they'd look for more of the mid-tier guys because they have Murphy under contract. Caleb Evans could be something. Obviously, Mekhi Blackman could be something. I don't think they're going to overspend on one of the top free agent cornerbacks, but I can see them dipping their toes back in the Byron Murphy type of bin of cornerbacks.
So, yeah, the top 2 cornerbacks have both. So, L'Jarius Sneed with Kansas City was franchised, right?
But he might be traded.
Yeah, and Jalen Johnson from the Bears signed an extension yesterday.
Yes.
So those are the top 2 cornerbacks on the board. And then Kendall Fuller from the Commanders is projected to get 3 years, $40 million. He's 29. There's like Stephon Gilmore, who's 33, is on the board. Chidobe Awuzie from Cincinnati at like $10 million. So there's some dudes in that range. There's a lot of like serviceable veteran cornerbacks out here that you might be able to get for between $7 and $10 million. So you could keep an eye on that, Ben.
Yeah. So to go back. What was the Xavier price tag again? Projected price tag?
There is no projected price tag. I'm just kind of going off like the Patrick Peterson deal from a couple years ago, which was like $7 million a year.
Yep.
And the cap went up, so it kind of depends. Patrick Peterson's available. Just got cut yesterday by.
I don't think Patrick Peterson in any way, shape, or form would fit into what Brian Flores wants to do defensively. I think it might get ugly.
I think he fits in doing podcasting now. You know, and I'm not like taking a shot.
He might be a network guy. You know what? He might be. I could see an ESPN studio tryout for Patrick Peterson. Ron Rivera making the rounds.
The
Now,
media stuff?
He was on ESPN's Daily Show a couple days ago, and I guess he's being wooed by like the Foxes and stuff. So he's like
Interesting.
doing the rounds. I could see Pat P. Pat P's good. He's very, very smart.
Yep. Agreed. Okay, 2 final names here from the running back bin to round out our list here. Now, there's a zillion running backs that are sitting out there right now. Like, I don't know that we've had a season where you've had this many household name running backs from Saquon, Josh Jacobs is a free agent, Derrick Henry.
You're literally at Goodwill, and you're like, somebody gave that to Goodwill?
It's
and
insane.
One of those?
Austin Eckler is out there, but he's going to be 29 years old. So we're going to put 27-year-old Tony Pollard on this list and just turned 25 years old DeAndre Swift.
Yes.
So Tony Pollard, projected contract, 3 years, $6.5 million a year. Now his production took a dip as a full-time, like 300 touch back last year with no Zeke Elliott in Dallas.
Yep.
But I think if you can get him back to being that sort of change of pace, split carries, third down, he's excellent as a pass blocker and a pass catcher on third down.
And
just
Ty
kind of
Chandler's playing.
Yep, get him back. Him and Ty Chandler, get him back. Couple guys who can mix and match. And then DeAndre Swift, projected 3 years, also like $6.5 million. Very much has some juice. He's 3 or 4 years younger than some of the other running backs on the market. Mm-hmm. He was top 10 among running backs in 10-plus yard rushes last year. Not very good. It's funny, his pass protection grade was equal to Alexander Madison's. So there's been some reasons why he's bounced around and why he's not necessarily as highly coveted, but there's still something there as a 25-year-old. Pollard, I'm in on Pollard if you can make it work financially.
Me too.
Super interesting.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to this too, because the market is so inundated with backs. Who's the cheapest?
Yeah.
Like they're going to look at that. This market is so flooded. And I mean, these guys were talking about forming their own union a year ago. And like, what can we do? And that's what Saquon franchised. No one's franchised. No one cares. And I think Saquon, I could see him being paid pretty well. But beyond that entire list, it's going to be a free for all you guys.
I mean, dude, A.J. Dillon is on this list. Devin Singletary is still only 26 years old. J.K. Dobbins, who's just been kind of derailed
Where's
by
Derrick Henry going?
Injuries. I don't know, man.
I mean, he's taking a beating.
He's still productive, too.
I know.
He can still play. He'll be 30 years old when the season starts. I don't know that he's a great fit for what
No.
the
But
Vikings
I'm just saying,
would need, but
I mean, that guy 2 years ago was an absolute unbelievable force in the NFL.
So there's a list of 10 plus free agent targets that we on this show, the authority, right?
A lot of defense.
The shadow front office here.
A lot of defense here. Go get Christian Wilkins, and everything else will flow.
Yes,
for
Christian
Beeflo.
Wilkins. Make a phone call.
That's right.
Send a text message. Send a direct message. Quasey, tamper if you need to. Christian Wilkins.
Flow for B-Flow. That's my new motto.
Put it on a shirt. The Sports Dad.
I don't really
Marketing
have a shirt
genius.
company. I don't have a shirt company to do that.
Yeah, you do. It's scorenorth.com/shop. We have T-shirts that
Well, I'm
people
going to
can
tell you
purchase.
about it or tell Ross, and then they can stick it on a shirt, and then I'll buy one.
Sounds good. Thanks for paying attention to the Score North shop, Judd.
I knew about the
Appreciate
shop, but I don't personally have a T-shirt company. And I don't know how to contact them.
Okay. Well, we'll help you figure that out over the weekend here. And we're looking forward to chaos in the NFL starting on Monday. This is your home, Daily Vikings Entertainment. We've got you covered. Emergency episodes. We're standing by between now and the end of free agency season. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Let's go.